Real 92.3, Big Boys Neighborhood. Man, in the building right now. Frank Mir is in the building. You are a legend. It's crazy. Thank you for even showing up and coming here, man.
Oh, man, no.
This is exciting. We got, the heavyweight World Grand Prix going down, Bellator 198, man. Fedor versus Frank Mir. What's happening, bro? How are you right now? How are you feeling leading up to this fight?
Oh, I'm excited about it. It's been a long time to be able to sit there and be able to say that I've faced Fedor. For a while he was number one, but over across there and fighting in Japan and Pride, and now we finally got him over to we're in the same organization. I got to be honest, it was many years. I never thought it was going to happen, and now it came to fruition, and we're going to face each other, and I get to finally check him off the list as one of the other legends that I finally got to be inside of a cage with.
Would you have rather seen somebody else other than Fedor this early in the tournament?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I mean, when I first got the phone call, come on, I'm a realist. I'm a strategist at the same time.
Of course.
You got to mix that up as a fighter. You half your mind has to be X's and O's and strategy, or, you can't just be a complete fool and go, well, I can run into the house with the fire burning and I'm not going to die. You know? Well, there has to be some bravado and bravery that you can push through the odds. But you still got to know the odds, so you make the right strategic choices. And so when I first got the phone call, it'd be Fedor. Not my first choice to fight somebody of that caliber after, taking a layoff for a couple of years. But seeing that the overall big picture of the situation, knowing there's a tournament and that, there's six other guys that are not going to probably cooperate with us trying to face each other in the finals. It made sense to me at that point that we had to face each other first.
You just coming back off of just taking some time off. Was it probably about 2 years or something like that?
Yeah.
What did you do for those 2 years?
Well, I started my own podcast, Phone Booth Fighting, with my partner Richard Hunter. Obviously stay busy with the family and kids, and then I really got heavily into commentary. I've been doing as a broadcast work overseas a lot, doing the ACB, which is another big organization for MMA. So I'm over there doing that, and and now I've got the other aspect of my life back in. Thankfully, Bellator has given me the opportunity to fight again. So between fighting, promoting, and then broadcast work, I'm trying to stay pretty busy. And now I'm actually opening up a gym. So for the last couple of years, I've actually been trying to put that together to do the franchise type work, and I'm working with a company called Gamburu, and it's a clothing company, and fight apparel, and we're going to open up a whole line of gyms, and I'm doing the flagship right now. We've already signed a lease and doing the demo on it, and hopefully here in June I'll be opening up a grand opening.
Wow, congrats, man. You've been a veteran in this game, Frank, for a long time, man, from the beginning. And how has MMA in general changed from when you started to now? Because obviously everything you mentioned, those are a lot of opportunities that opened up for you, right? Do you think there's more opportunities around this time than there was in the beginning?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we're much more accepted as a sport.
That's true.
I still don't think we'll ever be mainstream as far as that type of mindset. Like, we're never going to be basketball. It's never going to be baseball, football. Those are, just, because of the team aspect of it, it's different. Boxing and MMA are still kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? A niche, or just, but we're just happen to be a very popular niche sport where it's just kind of, its own little genre. And, we have a very loyal, large, hardcore fans.
Hardcore, man.
But it takes, it's not the, people aren't buying season tickets to just go watch fights regardless of who's fighting. You still got to promote fights and have certain guys, and people cycle through in events and whatnot. And so, we're still going there. But as far as opportunities where I can walk in and through sponsorships and be able to represent, different companies and talking and speaking, much more accepted. I mean, damn, when I first started out fighting in 2001, I was still dating and it was, before I met my wife, and, I'm training 99, 2000, and you met a girl, you didn't tell her you wanted to be a professional fighter. That was the quickest way to end a date. You imagine trying to introduce, I want to take my shirt off and fight guys half naked in a cage.
It's not that impressive. So.
No. And now it's funny because now guys that have, basically taken an aerobic kickboxing class, they go out and like, I'm kind of I'm an aspiring MMA fighter. I'm like, have you ever actually been on a mat? And they're like, well, when you break it down, they're just, so now we've become kind of modern day rock stars where everybody and their mother wants to be one. And so the opportunities to be out there and be accepted are much more greater than they were when I first started.
Yeah, I took jiu-jitsu for like 3 or 4 years or something like that. But it was like one class a month or something like that. So that's my pride of fame where I tell everybody, I did jiu-jitsu for 4 years. Oh, you're an MMA fan? But I'm like, yeah, but it's like, oh, that's dope. And people like ask more questions, follow-up questions about like, oh, how was it? How was this? And it's crazy how the sport has just changed. Even this whole tournament style thing, UFC won. It was, you know what I mean? How all that started where it was tournament style, no weight classes whatsoever. And he said, the one thing, because I've been a UFC fan for a long time, an MMA fan, and it was just crazy to see how it was like country versus country, Brazil versus America, Japan, and China, and these different fighters for international fighters fighting against each other. And now it's just the melting pot. It's no longer just the jiu-jitsu from Brazil. It's mixed martial arts now.
Yes.
And it's affecting everybody, and the world is going crazy for it. From kids from like 5-year-olds. I know little kids who are in MMA class right now, in mixed martial arts classes too right now. And it's just like, it's not just for a niche of fans anymore. There's a huge fan base now, and it trips me out because I feel now that even how you mentioned, okay, boxing and UFC are two niches, right? I kind of feel that UFC is taking over and has more power over boxing now.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because of these fighters and these matches.
And I think you hit the head on the nail there. It's more fan friendly. I think that still boxing can be intimidating to go into a gym and train. Whereas grappling can be a little bit easier of a step to go into. And one thing that I'm actually very thankful for as far as how MMA has gone is, how now, it's been the truth of mixed martial arts has brought, when I first started training martial arts with my father, right, owned a gym. And now my daughter trains, right, martial arts. She's going to be an MMA fighter.
Wow.
She's doing wrestling right now. She just won state in 8th grade. She's the state champion for Nevada, for high school girls. And so right off the bat, she gets to train a real form of martial arts, where back when I was a kid, we were trying to train real forms of martial arts. But until the UFC did what they did in 91, there was a lot of bull, in the martial arts world. There was like, well, if I touch you here, you'll fall down, or, like I could grab you this way and throw you through the wall. And there was a lot of fakery in the world of martial arts. A lot of, you have to bleep me out. A lot of bullshit.
Gotcha.
And so now that's one beautiful thing that when, the UFC really did. And now all of the world of MMA has done is that, like you said, it's a mixed martial arts, and it shows that martial arts in a one-on-one situation, what works, what doesn't work. And then people can go to the gym and train it and have legitimate people train that are just, instead of having an instructor, you walk in and go, hey, so man, I've been in 300, street fights. That's what it used to be 20 years ago. Now you can sit there and go, oh yeah, well, hey, I fought at Bellator, and I worked my way up. I never got a title fight, but I'm 12-5 as a professional. I had 30 amateur fights. You're like, I'll learn how to fight from you. Yeah, I got a brown belt in jiu-jitsu under so-and-so. I had about 5 kickboxing matches. Now you have instructors that have legitimate experience in combat. They're teaching our youth, and that's a great thing. I think it brought a lot of truth to the martial arts, which is one of my favorite things at what MMA has done.
That's awesome. You're doing a lot of press right now, you and Fedor, for obviously Bellator 198. I want to ask you, man, what's the difference between, or how do you feel about these fighters nowadays that feel that they got to be very outspoken to get attention, whether it's for sponsors or whether it's to gain, the views or their popularity on social media and stuff like that? I don't really see that from you, obviously, as a veteran fighter. Do you see that from these younger fighters now, and what do you think about it?
Well, I think everybody has to find their voice. How am I going to stick out in the crowd for somebody to want to pay attention to me? Because that attention a lot of times leads to monetary gain. I've been lucky that between not only my success as a fighter, but also my ability to speak, to put sentences together, and my thought process has given me a voice. People are entertained, or I can hold a discussion. Other guys don't maybe possess those same skills, and they're trying to follow, and I get it. You try to emulate, we do that in all walks of life. You look around and go, okay, who's successful here? And the problem is that as a society, we give a lot of direction to the next people because of who we give our attention to now. And the fact is that Conor McGregor is the highest paid martial artist that ever lived. The guy is a genius at marketing and promoting and what he's done, but that's his way of doing it. And you have a lot of guys now that are looking at it going, well, if I shove guys at the press conference or if I throw things around, I'll get the same kind of money. I'll do the same kind of things. It's like, well, no, you're impersonating somebody. The fans aren't going to embrace it. You got to find your voice, but at the same time, it's like a spider web. Like, I don't entirely blame the fighter because I get what he's trying to do. He's just trying to emulate somebody else who's successful.
Yeah.
But then he's that person's success because us as a society, it's like when people make fun of the Kardashians and girls nowadays, like, oh, all these girls are interested in this, that, or that. I'm like, yeah, but look how rich we made the Kardashians.
Yeah, pretty much.
As a society has made them blindly rich because we tune in on them. They give them a television show, the magazine. Like, so then when you have young girls that have their Instagram accounts, and it's like, well, what are you going to do when you get older? I'm going to be an Instagram model. I'm going to do this. It's like, well, do you blame them? They look over and see this example of an individual who's making a great living, and now they're just trying to emulate them, you know? And obviously, I would rather my children emulate a physician or an attorney. Or
that's tough nowadays.
But those aren't making headlines. Right now, what's in our face is entertainment world.
Yeah, there's something that I read where it said that fake news is spread like 80% more than real news nowadays because people love gossip and people want to hear what people are talking about.
We've always done it on a verbal point, but the problem was it was in bubbles.
Gotcha.
Fake news was spread when you and I were having a beer at the bar. You know what? I heard that Trump, I heard he banged a porn star. You know what I mean? Like, that was just you and I talking.
Oh,
and it was
rumor. Did I tell you how I beat up Frank Mir one time? Yeah.
But now all of a sudden, that same thing, because of the way the world is moving with social media. And most people now, from what I understand, seem to be getting their news from Facebook. And now it's like, well, I saw this article that got spread out. I'm like, really? You just took it for face value? You heard something and you just assumed it was true on the first go? Yeah.
That's crazy. What's the craziest story or craziest rumor you've seen on social media or
about
online,
myself?
About yourself, yeah.
Oh, well, one time, this is one, and if you know my wife and I, you would know that this is the farthest from the truth it could ever possibly be. But someone had called in, and I was on a radio show, and they're like, "Well, yeah, but Mir and his wife, they're swingers."
What was your reaction right away?
I kind of laughed. I was like, wow, my wife and I are so jealous of each other that, like,
wow.
When she goes and has lunch with her girlfriends, she's checking in with me because I want to make did you come straight on? And vice versa. I go out with the guys on a motorcycle ride. They all know, like, I'm that guy that everybody, if I go out with you, you're going to bust my balls because I'm on the phone. Where are you at? I'm here. I stopped to get what did you pay for? I paid for a Monster Energy drink and a bag of M&Ms. I spent, we're that couple, just constantly we're passionate about each other. So the idea that someone actually told each other that, and the person called in and go, well, this girl here told me that she's with you and your wife at the same time. And I was just like, okay.
All right.
So that was one of the ones that was kind of like, okay, we're swingers now, huh? And it was funny because even before I could even defend myself, it was actually Frank Trigg on his show, and he started laughing because he knows us. It was like, trust me, they would shoot each other. Yeah, come on, these two are, they're homicidally jealous.
How do you balance family with being an MMA a professional fighter?
Luckily, because martial arts is kind of my way of life, my kids are involved in it, and it's kind of my way of guiding people. Because, martial arts everybody needs structure in life, some form. Why do you get up and brush your teeth in the morning? Why do you do things a certain way? And my kids, even though my wife and I don't want my kids to fight professionally. That was never my
their choice?
Yeah.
Wow.
I actually tried to do everything I have done my damnedest to keep my kids out of wanting to fight for a living, because it's any sport. I don't want my kids to try to be professional athletes. I know that everybody thinks that they're going to be their dream. And trust me, my kids play baseball, football. I'm on the field with parents all the time that think little Johnny is going to make it to the pros.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the chances are slim to none, right?
Yeah.
And it's a nerve-wracking life to be a professional athlete. I've lived that life. There's so many factors that can go wrong. You can roll your ankle at the wrong time and you don't get paid. Yeah. Making money off your body is very stressful when, it's not a steady paycheck. And so there's a little bit of luck involved with it. A lot of luck. Yeah. That, it's like, well, you better hope the stars align for you, because there's many world-class athletes that got the flu at the wrong time, didn't meet the right person at the wrong time, and fighting, my opponent could pull out at the wrong time and I don't get a fight. I mean, all kinds of things can happen. So I've tried to push them away from it, but because I want them to also train martial arts, they're involved in it. My daughter, more than my sons actually, is falling face first into it. We finally accepted it about a year ago that it's inevitable. She's in a fight. Now we have the negotiations. Like, okay, I still, because we've had them in private school this whole time, all of them. I'm like, look, I've paid a lot of money. I think when it's all said and done, it's about $360,000 I've spent on private school. And so for them not to go to college would be a little bit hard for me to swallow. So I told my daughter, you could fight professionally and, you could turn pro at 18, but we're still going to school.
Did you accept that because you see the potential in her, or was it just, hey, follow your dream and I'm going to, back you up?
Well, it's twofold. One, you want your children to follow their dreams.
Yeah.
Obviously, you'll be happy. But I mean, that's only part of the recipe. I mean, the other hard pill for people to swallow is you got to be good at what you like to do. If you're not good at it, I don't care how much you love something, we're kind of setting our children up for disaster. I never wanted to be that parent to be like, hey, you could be anything you want to be when you get older. That is a horrible lie to tell your child.
Wow.
It's a horrible lie.
So many kids have been told that.
It's awful.
Yes.
What
teachers tell kids that. Everybody, you know what I mean?
Put your mind to it. No, you can't. There's no way that I ever would have made it in the NBA. I can't dribble. I can't shoot. I'm only 6'2". I don't care how hard I would have tried. I probably never, ever, the chances are slim to none, right? I can't sing. So if my aspirations were to be a singer, I'm screwed. I'm not good at it. So I don't care how much I love it. So when you sit there and tell people that, then you set them up for disaster instead of trying to maybe move in a direction of something like, okay, let's try to find something that you like and you're good at. That's what you should be doing for your child, having them try different things, finding their path in life, and then helping them, find the right way. Not that there's not hard work and things that come along with doing things that you love, that you still don't have to do the hard work. I get it. But telling your child they can be anything is one of the worst things I think you can do to somebody. It's a lie. Why do that? Why set them up for disaster? It sucks. You gotta be like, look, you're not, you're 5'2". We're not going to go ahead and be in the Major League Baseball.
You're going to be in the NBA, Louis. Trust me, 5'4".
It's just, well, there's just one guy. I'm like, okay, there's one out of how many millions that maybe, it's just the way it is. Not everybody, there's only one Beyonce,
Yeah.
It just, in our society,
that's crazy.
We do that to people and it's just like, look, it's just not going to happen. So why do that? So, push towards realistic dreams and then give them the tools to be able to attain them.
Does your daughter have a favorite MMA fighter?
I don't know. Does she?
For girls?
Yeah. Sorry, I gotta go.
No, that's okay.
On this one.
She likes Holly Holm.
Oh, Holly Holm?
Yeah.
She likes her personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, Holly Holm's a warrior. Her personality is amazing too.
Yeah, Bella's a gritty. In fact, the other coaches to work with her, because I try not to be Bella's coach. I try to be more of an advisor. I think as a parent, I heard it as a friend when I first heard the phrase that, your children will have many friends throughout their life.
Yeah.
They only have one father. So don't ever try to be their friend over being their father. Don't rob them of having a father.
Yeah, of course.
So I kind of keep that same mentality as far as being a coach. She only has one father. If I become her coach too, then, I'm crossing and blurring those lines. So I bring her to, my coaches, Angelo Reyes, Robert Drysdale, those guys, James Horn, they coach her. So I'll sit back and give, advice, okay, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that, and not necessarily, harp and drive things home because, like I said, I want to go home and be her dad, not be,
of course. What do you think, for up and coming fighters like that? Like how old is she?
14.
14 years old?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she's a freak.
14 years old, at 18, she could possibly go pro.
Oh, yeah, easily.
And by then, do you see her being a world champion one day, Frank?
She has it.
Yes?
She does.
Wow.
Well, as I say, what I've had to tell her other coaches is that she's much more advanced at her age than I ever was. I was a very gifted athlete.
Wow, that's huge.
But because I was such a gifted athlete my whole life, it made me mentally weak. It wasn't until later in life, after the motorcycle accident, until I actually had to face other really tough guys later on in MMA, that forced me to be tough. And I learned mental toughness, but at a much older age. Sometimes being talented makes you weak because I didn't have to try very hard to beat everybody around me. Whereas Bella, right off the bat, has a work ethic that I didn't possess at that age, not even 10 years older than her.
Yeah.
So sometimes with other coaches, I'm like, hey, you know how, like, you tell someone to, stay in a push-up position and then stay there till you come back. You can't do that to my daughter. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, if you come back in the room, she'll be passed out with a broken nose. She won't stop until she dies. She's that type of person. She just, you know what I mean? If you say stay on the treadmill and don't get off,
dedicated,
she'll kill herself. Like, you can't, like other athletes, you can walk out of the room and they'll quit. She won't quit. She'll hurt herself.
Wow.
So like you got to be careful what you ask her to do. If you say put your head through the wall, be prepared that she's going to break her neck trying to put her head through the wall. So let's just, be careful what instructions you give.
I'm pretty sure you've had conversations with her on how you started and stuff like that. But do you think that fighters nowadays, for some reason, have this kind of front of the line pass to make it into the limelight? Not putting in the real actual
Well,
work?
I think a lot of people, because going back to what I said earlier, us, as MMA fighters are now kind of the modern day rock stars. It's kind of the hip thing to be now, to be a fighter. And so I think there are people that get into fighting for the wrong reasons. When I first got into martial arts, I really started fighting professionally because I loved, I watched Bruce Lee movies.
Yeah.
Fighting one-on-one intrigued me, and I wanted to see what was real. It scared me. Still makes me nervous to fight somebody, There's that, that sense of engagement. It's like a hunter, you're out there in the blind, and it's like, okay, what's going to happen? And then anticipation of the kill. And so I got into fighting and wanted to learn how to be more proficient at it because I wanted to conquer myself, be better at it. Like, well, why did I pull back here? Why did I make this decision here? Well, damn, I fell short of my goal. And then fighting was a very realistic way of finding out the truth of myself, because anybody can be good in a simulation or in the gym. But when you put yourself in a very,
on the spot,
aggressive situation, you put yourself in the middle of the fire pit, you're going to find out what you're really made out of. And that's what fighting for me was. Now you see people getting into fighting, and I think they do it because there's fame and glory involved. Now it's like, well, I can be a millionaire and be a fighter. It's like, trust me. I thought I was going to have a job. I mean, I had a job all the way up until the first time I fought Brock Lesnar. I had a full-time secondary job that I worked and then went and trained at night. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would actually be a full-time, able to support a family off of fighting salary.
Yeah. Do you remember your first paycheck, your first fight?
Yeah, I got paid, I fought over in Indiana, and I made $200.
Wow.
Yeah, my plane tickets cost $4, so I basically paid to go fight somebody.
You paid to go fight somebody.
Well, and at the time I didn't have any money. I was 20 years old, and so it was, people, helped me out, me working part-time jobs here and there. I was living on a mattress at my coach's house.
Wow. Damn, that's crazy. Those are the things people don't understand, I think, and that's why I love having interviews with MMA fighters and just talking about them and just learning about them too. You know what I mean? Because obviously, I grew up watching you too, and there's a lot of I have little cousins and stuff who are also wanting to get involved in MMA, and I'm like, dude, you gotta understand where it came from, how it started, and I just remember UFC 1 going to just going to the video rental place and getting it on VHS and like, yo, Gracie. And then it was just amazing.
The skinny little Brazilian guy just destroy guys.
Yes,
and I have a clue what he was doing. I'm like, well, he's on the bottom. I think he's losing. I'm like, I don't know what he's doing.
Next thing you know, it's like a guillotine choke or something like that. And it's armbar and it's done. Let's talk, man. Bellator 198 going down Saturday, April 28th. So now it's going to be at Paramount Network. I see that, huh? Live.
Yeah, Spike switched over now.
Wow, check that out. Okay, so let's talk heavyweight world Grand Prix. Fedor, man, what's the game plan to beat so we can beat him?
Fedor is still very quick. He was always a very fast heavyweight. He's small for heavyweight, but he's fast. And that's where he really had an advantage over some of the other heavyweights who were big and slow, and he was explosive and hit hard and hit them before they could hit him. I still think that he's not very good inside the cage compared to how good he is in a boxing ring. And, lo and behold, Bellator is going to have us in a cage. So I'm going to use the fact that I'm still going to be 30, 40 pounds bigger than him to use my size on him, move forward, and just be aggressive. And then once we lock up, I still feel like I can be, the much better submission artist.
Throughout your career, man, who was the scariest fighter that you faced? Well,
the fighter that made me really, it was a gut check for me that I didn't realize I had an unfair tool. It was, I call it Dumbo's feather. I became very proficient at submissions, at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu very quickly, right? So I found really quickly, anytime I locked up with people in the gym, no one would last more than a few minutes with me. And then in fights, here I'm fighting professional fighters that are world champions, and I'm submitting them in a few minutes. So I gained a lot of confidence with my ability to break someone's arm or to choke them unconscious. And so whenever I fought somebody, I always had that in the back of my mind, not realizing I had that in the back of my mind, going, all right, you might be able to do this, do that. But if I grab you, it's a wrap. And so the first time that was taken away from me, it was a weird sensation. I remember I was walking into the cage to fight Nogueira the very first time. And if you go back and watch the fight, I actually ended up knocking him out because
that was the first.
I didn't go to the ground with him. There was a couple times and almost kind of like a cold chill hit me when I'm staring at him going, oh man, there's a chance that not only can I have a difficult time submitting him, but he might submit me.
Yeah.
And so that was weird for me to have such a confidence in something. And then all of a sudden I made those dots connect at the worst possible time to probably make those dots connect when I'm staring across at him going,
like, oh
yeah, wait a minute. My submission skills, my best weapon that I have,
kind of getting neutralized a little bit.
Yeah, it'd be like, I'm a gunfighter and my favorite weapon. All of a sudden you came over here and like, okay, real quick, you're ready to fight? Yeah, let's take this from you. Throw it out of the cage. You're not going to get to use this.
Wow. There's a lot of talk with referees nowadays and how long it takes for them to stop fights. What do you feel about that? And what do you think a ref should, how should a ref approach these fights nowadays? Because normally when you start seeing blood, it's like, okay, panic.
Yeah.
The ground and pound is always, as soon as they see ground and pound, it's just, I feel some fights get stopped prematurely, some don't. Like, what do you think how should a ref actually referee these MMA fights nowadays?
I actually think most of the referees actually do a pretty excellent job, to be honest with you. And if they had to err on one side of a little bit early or a little bit late, I think it's better to stop it a little bit late. And I'm pretty sure that most of the guys that are fighting would agree with me. Because I would rather you give me that extra punch to make sure and not rob me of an opportunity to maybe make a comeback. Because I've trained for this. We put our life in this. We're so invested in our time and energy that if you make an early stoppage, you took that away from me. And that's so frustrating. I'm going to carry that for months, for years. Whereas if you let me take an extra shot or two, I mean, how many fights occur worldwide all the time? Because the more now, and we understand more about the brain than we ever have, and we're understanding more and more as we go on through the concussions, especially with the NFL. It's not the first concussion that really causes damage. It's me getting a concussion and you stopping me, standing me up, giving me an 8 count, and then telling me to go back out.
And then go back out.
Me taking 2 or 3 shots and maybe that one extra punch is not going to be debilitating. We don't see fighters. I mean, look, I've had a 16-year career. I can pretty much hold my speech pattern all right. And I've been hit by Junior Dos Santos, Alistair Overeem, Brock Lesnar. I mean, I've been hit by some guys, but guess what? Once they hit me, if the fight was over with, the fight was over. I didn't get a concussion and didn't get a standing 8 count. And that's why I think when people talk about head damage, I'm like, well, that's one thing that probably needs to go in boxing. I think boxing needs to get rid of their standing 8 count. I think that once someone gets dropped, fight should be over with. Because the fact that they're getting dropped and getting concussions and then they're being stood back up.
Go back in there again?
Yeah, go after them.
Yeah.
Now tell me that anybody who's a physician outside that ring, hey, does that guy have a concussion? Yeah, that's why he fell down. Is it a good idea that he's getting hit for the next 4 or 5 rounds?
Wow.
No, it's a bad idea. Okay.
That is a great point, and I never thought about it like
that. But
that.
MMA, if I get rocked and I get dropped, fight's over with.
Yeah, man. All right, man. Fedor versus Mir's going down, Bellator 198. After this fight, win, what happens? What's in the future for Frank Mir?
Well, hopefully get the win here on April 28th, and then I'll go on and fight Chael. Chael Sonnen won his fight against Quentin Jackson, and so he's my next in line. So fight Chael. And then
Chael's very vocal, so you're going to have...
It'll be a good lead up. Yeah, Chael's probably
We've had him in a couple of times, and he's
between
very
Connor
vocal.
and him, the two best marketers in the world of MMA. Chael is a very smart, savvy guy, phenomenal wrestler. Definitely, even though he's not going to be one of the bigger guys in the tournament, because of such a high pedigree of wrestling, he knows how to fight savvy.
Yeah.
And we saw it in the Quentin Jackson fight. Quentin Jackson, 250-pound guy.
Yeah, man.
And hey, if Quentin lands on anybody, they're going to fall down. A guy can knock down a building with his left hook. And, and Chael was able to smother him out and move around and out strategize him because he's a smart guy. So all those things that he was able to do to Quentin, he possibly can do to me. So I have to be aware of those things. So it's not going to be an easy day, just at work where it's a freebie. I still got a tough guy in front of me. And then I face whoever's on the end of the side of the bracket between, Mitrione already cleared through Roy. And then I still got to find out who wins between King Mo and Ryan Bader.
Let me ask you this before you take off, before we end this interview. What was the hardest punch you've ever felt in your career?
Wow, there's been a couple. Probably the last one I took against Mark Hunt. Caught me right on the ear and inner ear completely went out. So it's funny because I heard a couple of people go, well, you didn't look like you were out. Were you okay with the stoppage? I'm like, yeah, I was okay with it because I wasn't unconscious. I could see, but I couldn't tell you which way was up, which way was down. I felt like I was in a washing machine being turned around. The whole room was spinning.
Wow.
So that was it was almost like I was underwater for a second. Like my hearing went out. I couldn't hear anything. Like it was like a low rumble of the crowd.
The crowd was gone, or it was just, you said a little rumble?
It'd be like jumping into a pool of water and then listening to everybody scream. You can kind of make out that there's noise going out there, but you can't differentiate the different noises. It's just an inaudible roar.
That is scary, man. Frank Mir, thank you for even stopping by, man. Louis G, Big Boys Neighborhood. Don't forget, Saturday, April 28th, going down, Fedor versus Mir, Heavyweight World Grand Prix. You can check it out on Paramount Network, all right? Louis G, thank you once again, Frank.
Oh, man, it's awesome.
I appreciate you, man. What's your Instagram? What's your Twitter? Are you social?
Yeah. The Frank Mir on Instagram, social, on Twitter and Facebook, and then also Phone Booth Fighting. I have a podcast twice weekly.
I saw that. I was actually checking. I subscribed to their YouTube channel today. So.
Oh yeah, please, yeah, thank you, man. I got to listen to us. Yeah.
Frank Mir, man, the pleasure to have you in, man. Veteran.
Awesome.
So this is an honor to interview you, bro.
No, it was great, man.
So we'll see you, man. Bellator going down 198 Fedor versus Mir. All right, make sure you guys check it out. It's Paramount Network. Louis G, Big Boys Neighborhood.